if there's like one level of mathematics, quote unquote, I use stats and quotes, because I'm a pure mathematician. Everyone should have a basic understanding of math. You run a company, you should understand statistics. If you're a citizen, you should understand statistics. You should understand what those statistics mean when you see the news. Okay? And I'm going to get off my phone now and preach. Okay? All right, so the agenda today. And this is flexible. All right? If I ask questions and I see everybody wants to go in another direction, we'll take it. Okay? So the first thing that we're going to talk about is KPI identification. Okay? We're all run businesses, right? That's the first place you start. Right? This should be completely data-driven KPIs. Does that make sense to everybody? Yes, right? Okay? You can collect all the data in the world, right? But if it has no business actionable items in it, then it's useless. Okay? What are short-term versus long-term needs in data? Okay? Such as like short-term growth, anyone, versus targeted user segmentation. Right? We'll get more into this. How do you identify those things? Okay. How do you capture data in general? Okay. How do you process data and make sure you never lose it? How you should be thinking about your data. Okay. I like to say data is a commodity. All right. At the end of the day, your users are, and the data they present to you will make you money. All right. That should be how you make more money in the future. You should be using this constantly to inform how you make decisions, how you make more money. Okay. So data is a commodity, and if you lose it and it becomes insecure, well, you're screwed. So what are your KPIs, and then what are the tools that you should be using, and you should be hiring in order to help you with this, or you might already have them. Okay, so let's go around. Let's kind of like get a show of hands. Like, so what are some KPIs right now that you're already like sort of thinking about? What's success? Sorry, what is success for you? So first off, who has a mobile app? And higher, I can't see. All right, okay, cool. So maybe about 20%, maybe less. Okay, and then web-based. Okay, and I know I have students over here, so I'm not going to talk to you. Real world. Working mobile, really. Okay, really. Okay. iOS or Android? That will close. You're going to code in C and Java. God help you. Okay. And then who has a combination of both of those things? Who has the set intersection of both of those things? Okay, one. Okay, no problem. Okay, so, and who has e-commerce? Who's selling something? Who's making money? Come on, right? If you're making money, raise your hand higher. Who's trying to make money? Come on. Who's trying to make money here if you have a business? Yes, thank you. Okay, great. Like if you're not good. Okay, yeah, so we're going to get to this. We're going to get to installs, user base, and growth and all that stuff, and how venture capitalists and private equity firms look at that and view that, right? Because, I'll just say it right now, at the end of the day, right, you should all raise your hand. You all want to make money, right? You are in a business, okay? If you are getting into business and you don't want to make money, then I don't know. You have a different philosophy. Which is fine, but I'm not judging. Okay, so show of hands then. So what is success? Is it revenue driven? Who's revenue driven here? As far as success. Okay, cool. Who's active user counts? Purely active user counts. If you look at MAUPAs, it's fine if that's your only metric, or like at least one of the metrics you look at. I look at that every day. Okay. Retention. Who's purely retention, or like the most of retention? Okay, cool. Retention means I use like your app. For example, day 1, okay, day 0, right? Do I come back the next day? Do I come back like 2 days from now, 3 days from now, a month from now, 6 months from now? Okay? If I only use your app once every 6 months, you know, VC, private equity is going to be like, well, you know, you might want to increase your retention, or if like the die-off is very fast, then you know, retention might be a good indicator to look at. Conversion rate. It was purely like kind of conversion rate based, but higher. Okay. All right. So core metrics that we one thing that I ask anytime when someone says, here's a KPI. I'm like, okay, great. Can you do anything with it? Can you do anything with it today? Can you do anything with it tomorrow, the next day, 6 months from now? Because if you can't, I don't care. If it's not actionable, then it doesn't inform me, right? It doesn't change my business stuff. Okay? It doesn't change the business, right? So that's the number one thing you should be asking. First, that you as a CEO, or you as a developer, or you as a data scientist or analyst should be asking, is it actionable, right? So a lot of times I have a lot of people come to me, CEOs or product people, and they're like, I want real time. Jimmy, make this real time. And I'm like, okay, you have $100,000, right? That's US dollars, okay? Do you have, give me a month, and I will build you a real-time analytics platform. But I say, why? Right? That's the first question. Everyone like wants real-time. Real-time is cool, it's sexy, right? It's awesome. Right? I can sit there and I can watch like assess, right? You watch those shows like guys are like trading, right? They're sitting there watching money like go up and down. Like that's like a lot of times that's like what a CEO does or a CLO, right? But those guys are actionable, right? They're like buy, sell, trade, right? Like that can happen. That can be very quick. I have an app, right, that I spent a sprint cycle 2 weeks developing. I compiled it, it went through review, and it's finally on my app store. Yay, it's there. Oh, I just lost a user. All right, we're gonna have to do that all over again, right? That's not an actionable sequence, right? So for an application, real time doesn't make sense, okay? Because it's not going to inform me, it's not going to change my decision, okay? That process, that cycle is what is really ultimately driving that decision-making process, right? So real time is not actionable, and 90% of the time it's not an actionable thing, okay? User count, engagement. So who again is only user count, right? Who said that? Who's only user count? I'm only interested in getting high retention and lots of users. I have a game. Yeah, okay. Good, okay, that's fine. This does not always necessarily mean one thing, okay? The one thing that I want to stress too is it used to be the case where a lot, you're kind of making the mic on that water. No. Walking over here. All right. So users, a high number of users does not always mean like a VC is going to look at you and say, yes, here's $10 million seed fund or round A, now go build, right? Okay, that's not always the case, okay? So what you have to have other metrics behind that user count to say why that high user count means money, okay? High retention, right? I have 5 million users like a month, right? I have high retention, they're super engaged, and here's where I can put advertising in order to drive and make money, okay? That is a compelling story, okay? With all of these things though, you need the data to back it up, right? You need to understand what your users are doing, where they're coming from, and how they're using your product in order to get any, okay? I'm trying to stress enough that when you have enough data, that will help you make it, okay? That's why analytics are so let's go around there. What are metrics that you look at every day? Raise your hand and I will call you. I don't want everyone yelling at me. One person. I will take you if you don't answer. I'm counting down from 5 to 8. Okay, so let's break that down. Okay, so first thing he said, how many people visit his website? Okay, so you have impressions, the number of people that come, visitor count. Okay, then you have the number of people that install. Okay, so you have a funnel already. Right, he already has funnel analysis. Okay, he has the number of people that are coming. Right, and then he has the number of people that are actually installing his product. Okay, that's a conversion. They converted to a company. Now, do you know where they're coming from? Yes, where they're coming from. That's really high organic search. Okay, cool. All right. Jim. Yeah, okay, cool. That's awesome. Good. What's another one? Somebody else. they're calling you in 5, 4, 3, not the students. 2, 1.
Normally we are looking at my side is number of people who call it PTA with the Hive.
Okay.
Yeah, so take a lot of PTA and then from PTA to lead generation.
Listen.
Where these are the things that go high spend,
Yep. Good, perfect. Okay. And this is why I'm not being very specific today, is because everyone's business model is different, right? The installation of a product to, to bounce rate and using other products on your site, completely different business model, right? Okay, somebody else in the back, because you sat in the back and you were late. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You were smiling. Go. What is something you look at every single day for your business? And if you don't have a business, what's one thing you would look at anyways?
Conversion rate.
What is it?
Conversion rate.
Conversion rate, good. What else? Somebody else, back here. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Revenue, good. What else? Back here, come on. Do I have to count? Do I have to count? You, what do you look at every day?
User count.
User count, okay. Everyone is user count, right? Everyone is revenue. Everyone are all these things, right? What I want to stress though is do you know where your users are coming from, like Thomas? Okay? Say I have, for example, okay? Say I have 1,000 people coming to my website every day, right? And I see, and I'm like, okay, well I don't understand where they're coming from. I put in referral tracking, what we call referral tracking, okay? Referral, if I have a website, okay? A website is a server, it's on a server, okay? I'm sitting on another, I'm a user, right? And I see a link, right? I'm like, I'm gonna click that link. I click that link. My computer makes a call to that server and does a request. Okay? It says, hey server, come to your website. And it says, okay, what do you look like? And my computer says, okay, well my browser looks like this. Oh, you break it? Yeah. Okay. So it says, okay, computer, this is what I look like. All right, now load me and send me the data. Okay. In that transaction, there's a referral, right? It's the website that I was sitting on prior to coming. Okay? If you're on a website, if your business is on web, not mobile, you're 90% ahead of the game. Okay? Because you have a lot more data than a mobile app. Alright? Because you have those clicks, you understand where people are coming from. Okay? Now, so there's 1,000 users, right? Those 1,000 users are coming every single day, really high retention. Okay, right? And now I figure out, like, okay, now I know where they're coming from. They're coming from this one blog. That's cool. Like, what the hell is a blog? What's a blog? Right? So you go look at it, and you say, oh, this blog is like some blogger, I don't know, whatever. I actually worked in the fashion industry for a long time, and I did like high-end fashion analytics and data mining and all this stuff. It's called Revolve Clothing. Anyone's ever heard of it? Yeah, so I was their data scientist for that. So I had to look at fashion blogs, right? And I don't know anything about fashion, but so we would look at these things and we'd say, okay, well this blogger is really, really amazing. Well, I wonder if they can drive more traffic. Okay, so we reach out to them. You say, hey, look, we're getting a lot of traffic from you. I'll pay you money to put more links and make more blog posts. Instantly, you get more traffic. You get more revenue. All because you started tracking where your users were coming from. Very simple. Okay? Like, so just by looking at that, you can automatically tell now and make more money. Simple, right? Easy. Okay. Okay. One more person who is not something that's not already been said as far as the number you look at every day. I've heard conversion a lot. I've heard, what else have I heard? User counts. What else? Something I haven't heard of. Churn rate. Churn rate. Yeah, churn rate. Churn rate is very, very good if you're e-commerce. Okay, churn rate is very, very good. Okay, what else? What's it? Engagement. Good. I like that. That's very open-ended. What do you mean by engagement? Right. Okay, so engagement. So like, yes. Okay. Right. Yes. Okay. So engagement meaning sort of like what they're doing on it, like how often they come back, right? Perfect. Good. Okay. So what are some other metrics you and no one's purchasing that, well, then you probably should get rid of that inventory, right? AOV, average order value. I already said this before, right? So who gets e-commerce? Who sells stuff? Who makes money? Raise your hand high, please. You should be proud of yourselves. You're already bringing in the dough. Awesome, right? Okay. Average order value, right? Of all my 1,000 users that purchased today, on average, how much did they make? Okay? Because if I understand sort of like on average what a user makes, how much money they make for me, right? I can sort of project out more users times this AOV should give me about this revenue increase. Okay? Now, there's a lot of things wrong with that. Namely, who's actually ever calculated, what's your AOV? Anyone? You have raised your hand, right? What's your AOV? Okay, right. Who has recurring, like, who's selling things? Anybody? No, okay, that's fine, because I'm gonna give an example of this, right? So, right, how do you calculate, all right, this is the only math we're gonna do today. I promise, okay? And you should have already had this. All right, so average order value. So we want an average. Okay? How do you calculate an average? Who can tell me? Come on. How do you calculate an average? I have 10 things, right? I have a set, right? I have 1, I have 5, I have 7, and I have 10. How do I calculate the average of that set? Sum them up, okay? Let's take these away. Boom, boom, boom. Now what do I do? Divide by what? The number of items. 4. That's my average. That wasn't hard, that wasn't. Come on! Jeez. Alright, so this is an average. This is how you calculate an average, right? That's wonderful. We call this a mean. Alright, M-E-A-N. Right? And that's normally how people in business, a lot of people in business calculate an average. Now, when you do this, however, right, and say I have, it's like a revolve clothing, right? We have a lot of people, I probably can't say in this video, but we have a lot of people purchasing one day, okay? And they buy multiple items, like belts, dresses, and shoes, and lots of stuff, okay? My wife is one of them. When I worked there, she'll never watch this video. Okay, so this is money here, and this is account. Okay? Okay. So what we do is we start putting in bins like the amount of money people are like buying in each purchase, right? We build what's called a distribution. Okay? Or we can bid them and whatever, but it's called a distribution system. Now, most distributions in retail look like this. Okay? Thank God my wife is not asking me. Okay? Actually, it's something a little bit, but well, okay. Okay, so this is what we call non-normal distribution. This is actually this is the number of people, and this is called long tail, right? These are the people that are spending like $3,000 on a bunch of clothes at every purchase. Okay, that's why my wife is. She has another credit card as well. Okay, now the mean, right? It's going to be like somewhere in here. Okay? That's the AOV, that's what actually people are like actually calculating. Okay? But in reality, this is non-normal. Non-normal distribution, what we call it. Normal distribution, not normal, but it's a term we use for what we normally refer to as a bell curve. Okay? Right? The mean, median, and the mode, all three ways of calculating what we call an expected outcome, are right here in the middle. That's why it's normal. Okay? It's nice placements. Okay? In order to get from this to this, we have to do some math. A lot of people in business don't understand this. Right? So I could take the median here. The median would actually give me a very, very accurate portrayal of the expected average value, or average order value. Okay? What I can do here, though, this is like a log normal. So you can take a logarithm of the money. Then we'll actually get closer to a normal distribution. Okay? Yeah? This is number. So this is like if we took a, like an Instagram, directly bid these people, right? And say, okay, like this number of people, right, spent $10. Yeah, they're great. You can also do like over time, you can do a day, per order, right? This is average order value, so this is per order. But we can look at our user segment like this. We can even look at all of our user segments, right? Okay. So what we do is we normalize this, right? Then we look at what the AOV is. And a lot of companies don't do this. A lot of people just don't understand this. They don't understand that they should be doing this, right? Because this can be very, very different. Right? Like you could even look at the mode right here, like the highest peak here, and say, well, if you're calculating that your AOV is 200, in reality, sorry to tell you, it's like 150, right? So now you took, you said, okay, if I get an extra 1,000 users, let's multiply that with 200, and I'm going to make this amount of money. Like, actually, you're not. Okay? Very, very subtle, but important thing you should be looking at for as far as your data. Okay? All right. Another thing we look at, so say I did this. I'm going to take this normal distribution, right? And I want to look at my quartiles. Who knows what a quartile is? Quartile means fourth, right? So there's fourth, right? 2, 3. This should be roughly, it should be roughly, not really actually, but it should be the majority of users. Okay? Then what I do is I say, okay, well, who are all these users? All right? Then what I do is I go back and I look at those users and say, okay, where did most of those users come from? Who are they? What do they do? What do they look like? Right? What's their address? Right? All of these things to understand that core basic amount, right? Because this is most of your revenue. If you don't understand who is making purchases or who's using your app or who's coming to your website, you have no user insight. Okay? And then you use that information to create marketing platforms. To say, okay, now that I understand my users, well, now I'm going to go full board. Or, who are these guys? Well, these guys are awesome, right? These guys are spending a crap ton of money, right? I want to understand these guys. Like, these guys are great, but these guys are like $5,000-$6,000, a pop. Like, those are cool people, right? I like them, so I'm going to go after them. Okay? This is user segmentation analysis. Okay? Right? This is understanding your user base. Who's already doing this? Who's already looking at this kind of stuff? Anybody? Anyone? Yes. Yes. You're a student. Cool. All right. Cool. So there are people that are like 1 or 2 people that are actually looking at this kind of stuff, right? This is hugely important. This is hugely important when you first start out. Okay. If you have a company, you have a business, and you want to understand who's actually using it, right? Because the VCs, the private equity people are going to ask that too. They're going to say, who's using your product? Do you understand who they are? Because if you can say who's using your product, then you can say, this is who I'm going after. This is what that demographic constitutes, the total sum of the total percentage of the population, right? That percentage of the population spends this much money a year on my product or types of products like me, right? That amount of money constitutes $1 billion. My market then, my market projection is a potential $1 billion company. Okay, thank you for checking. Yeah?
What is the easiest way to calculate things like that?
That was the easiest way to calculate things like that. Getting data. What do you mean? Be specific.
Do you need to calculate it manually, or is that automatic?
Oh, yeah. We'll get into tools. Yeah. I'm just talking about why it's important and what you should look for first. We'll get into tools. Yes. Okay, then the last thing is DAU. Does anyone know what a DAU is? Daily active users, MAUs, monthly active users, WAUs, blah, 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 blah. Use your, Okay. Okay. So, what data? All data can be broken down. Okay? No matter if it's a web app, a mobile app, whatever. There's basically 3 subtypes of data you can collect. Okay? There's event or session-based data. Okay? There's that engagement piece, right? Like, I look at per session, what does a user do? What do they click on? What do they look at? How long do they spend on this web page? Right? Do they click off of it? Do they bounce right off of it? right? All of these things you want to understand, right? It's all session, right? In that session, I might have other things, like the user ID. But I have a session ID, at least bare minimum, on that data. Okay? And then the event that happened. And then some metrics inside. Time and page, right? When they click on it next, right? Where did they come from prior to? Okay? So this is called page or click tracking. And this can help with funnel analysis. Okay? Funnel analysis, you didn't already get it, means like they come to a page, then they go to this next page, like clearly defined as like sort of part of my funnel, right? They add a cart, right? Then they fill out their credit card information. Then they put in their address, and they click the button to purchase. That's a funnel. And you have drop-off at each of those levels, right? You want to understand why these people are dropping off. This is bad internet connection, right? If I understand my user, if I understand the session, I understand, okay, well, all the sessions where people dropped off and they didn't convert, well, they're coming from this area where it has really crappy internet. Okay, that's important, right? You might think that your funnel is crap, but in reality, it's the internet, right? Or it's something else, something strange. Or it might be something different, right? It might be actually something you can change or. Pardon? My what? What is it? Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, so the next level of data is user-based. Okay, this is, and I think of all data sort of as like a table. Okay, because I think in databases, right? I think in like sort of Excel sheets, kind of, right? Excel sheets are not databases, but I think inside sort of databases, right? So you have, right, this table, right? Right, and each row here is a user ID, right? And then it has like, what are their total sales or total purchases, right? Some money. How many visits do they have, right? The past 6 months, the past 12 months, right? Right, so it's rolled up by user level. Okay. Session data is by session. Okay, you might also have the user ID, right? Because I want to understand who that user was in that session. But then there's a session ID here too. Okay, we call this in the data world, this is the dimensionality of the table, of the space, right? It's my metric dimensionality. Okay, you might also have the country that they're coming from, right? Right? It might have a lot of things. Right? But these are the things that we want to capture now while you're starting. So you're going to have this down the road in like 6 months, right? A year. Conversion based. I want to have every conversion, every transaction, right, documented, right? I mean, for a number of reasons, right? But I want to also have that in a database. Okay, I want to have that sitting in a database where I can look at, say, what is my AOV for today? What was my AOV for a month, past month? What was my AOV, normalized AOV, for like last year? How I moved the needle on that by doing these marketing campaigns, right? Because my marketing campaigns had an effect. Because if I'm throwing all this money, right, at all these marketing campaigns, right, or I don't understand that 95% of my traffic is already organic, so I'm like, whatever, marketing, like, everyone should love me. Then I'm not going to waste my money. Okay, my ROI, return on investment, is going to be, it'll be awesome. It'll be like really like something. Okay, every dollar I spend, I make $10, right? It's super high multiple, whatever. Okay, so event, session-based, user-based, and conversion-based. Transactions, revenue, email sign-up. Conversion doesn't have to mean money. Okay? It can mean installation. Okay? Like I said, this is data dimensionality. The more data you collect, right, then the more insight you're going to have. Okay? Right? So you're going to have all these different things out here. This is your dimensionality. Okay? Most companies, when I go into like work with them, right, I say, where's your user table? What data does it have in it? How are you collecting it? Where's your click table, right? Or page track, or session based, right? Is there a unique session ID per session? Is there a user ID there too, right? Now, the thing with the guys that are doing, or sorry, girls too, are doing with both a web app and a mobile app, you have the hardest job, okay? Because you have to take data from two very, very different sources and link them up, okay? I can watch to see who uses my app, right? You make purchases there. You also make purchases online. I need to understand that you're the same person, okay? That's called fingerprint, okay? That is a multi-billion dollar problem that people solve. And you solve it with very, very sophisticated machine learning algorithms, okay? Of which I built. Alright, next. Alright, so how do you capture any of this data? Alright, so I'm going to go through bullet points. This is my mantra, right? Nothing is ever perfect, okay? Nothing. There's there's bad users that there's bad internet, right? There's bad web browsers, there's bad computers. Data capture will never, ever, ever be perfect. I wish it was. It would make my job so much easier, okay? See bullet point 4. Data is always dirty, okay? Because nothing is ever perfect, data is always dirty. You will always need to clean your data, okay? This is a commodity, right? You want to make sure it's clean, that it's good, because if it's not, and you're running analysis on it, you're going to get some funky numbers or wrong numbers in general, okay? Have more than one method of capture is feasible. Okay, so we're going to talk about some tools in 2 seconds. We'll get more into tools later. All right, so for example, one thing like when I first joined the run company, like so for a web app or for a mobile app, we're like, okay, let's build an internal system for tracking. Number one, okay? I trust my data more than I use somebody else's. Okay, normal, not always. Second, I'll be like, okay, what do Google Analytics do? It's free, right? Why not? It adds this much code. Okay? CEO is like, hey, what? Well, that's why we hired you. And I'm like, yeah, you hired me to tell you to also put in Google Analytics. And I'll say, okay. I'll be like, that's awesome. Thank you. And I'll be like, all right, oh yeah, we're going to get mixed penalty. We'll actually pay for that. Okay? Or Localytics, or any of the other number of like mobile app tracking platforms, right? And they'll be like, okay, great. Why? I'll say one, that is never perfect. I'll say two, that is always dirty. And I'll say at least have one method because that's my monkey. But the reason is because I'm going to go look at my user counts, I'm going to look at my transactions, I'm going to look at all these data points from 3 different sources. 2 of them match within statistically, within error. Okay? Nothing's perfect, right? Because nothing's perfect. So 2 of them match, 1 of them's not. That's a red flag to me. Okay? I can triangulate, literally triangulate any data point. Okay? At least most data points, these 2 important transactions, user count, retention. Okay? If any 2 of those match and the other one's off, I'm like, that was wrong. Let's go debug this. Let's go figure out why this is not firing from. So why does it not match? If all 3 match within error, everything's hunky-dory. Okay? Everything's good. I build systems that literally will pull in data from other systems and track and match all 3 data points on the same metric. And if they're off, literally by statistical significance, by error, I'll send an email out to myself and be like, okay, like something went wrong, right? And then we look at it, okay? And that's a technique and a methodology for making sure that everything is working correctly, right? You're never going to be able to clean your data completely, right? No technique is ever going to be like perfect data capture, right? So you at least want to make sure that you can figure out what's not working, okay? Right. So that's why I have at least 3, try to have 3 methodologies for learning. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay. Now the last point is know how everything is captured. Okay? Even if you're not technical, even if you're the CEO, you want to say, okay, well, Google Analytics on my application, they are sending data up every 10 seconds, right? No matter what. My app or my tracking platform is setting up every 10 minutes, maybe like every day. right? So it catches on the device, sends up what it has to do connection. Google Analytics has servers everywhere in the world. They don't care, right? They don't care what your data connection is. They just send it, okay? And they send it in some small chunks because they make a difference. Okay? You want to understand that. You should know that. You should know that why like Google Analytics isn't matching. Maybe it's because of the way it's being sent up, right? So there's always, when I do this stuff, right, I always put an asterisk. I put asterisks everywhere, right? An asterisk should be footnote, understand what's happening. Okay? Understand how this metric is being calculated. What's the data source for this metric? Okay? Whether it's coming from Google Analytics, whether it's coming from our internal system, whether it's coming from our, right? Okay. All right. Now we're gonna get a little. So, okay, you don't need me. All right, most of you don't need a data scientist. Okay, you need at least Google Analytics. Okay, you need at least one other method. That way you can at least compare two numbers together. Okay, right? That at best. Okay, or at least. Okay. Now, if you want something next level, you need a good data engineer. Right? A data scientist, like I said at the beginning, I hate the term because it's broad and umbrella term. Okay? A data engineer is essentially a back-end engineer or developer. Okay? But they also understand sort of KPIs. They understand data storage, data persistence. They understand data models. They understand schemas. And they understand ETL really, really well. Okay? Like I said, you know what those terms are, you should learn. Okay? So you want to do data engineering, do it early, do it well. Okay? Hire someone who knows what they're doing, who's done data engineering before, okay? Or hire someone to come in and help. Okay? Not the same as a back-end developer, but they will have the knowledge of data science. Quote unquote. Okay? You have to tell them what you need to capture because they might not always understand what the KPIs are. Okay? You tell them what the KPIs are, right? You start out, you ask yourself, what's success? This is success to me. This is short-term success, right? Short-term success is any user count. I just want high DAU right now. I want to make a lot of money right now. 6 months from now, I want to understand who my users are, right? I want to understand how to do marketing, right? I want to understand how to actually spend dollars to make more money, okay? So they're going to need to know that so they can build a system now so you're not screwed in like 6 months or a year, okay? You also need to know how to store the data, okay? And data is money, okay? You can convert your data into hard cash, okay? There are companies, literally companies, that just collect data and then sell it to you, right? Literally, that's all that they do, okay? There's a lot of these companies that exist. Your data, though, is very important to you and to your business. It is also important to the future of your business, right? Okay. So how do you capture this data? Right? Like we already went through some, like, there's Google Analytics, there's Localytics, there's Metrics, there's all these guys. Okay? Those are one way of capturing your data. Or actually, I take that back. It's not one way of capturing your data. That's one way of understanding your data. Capturing your data actually means running it to a server that you own, or that you rent from AWS, okay? Or from somewhere, right? Or you set it sitting in a box or in the corner of a room and it's constantly buzzing, okay? So you don't need to know all these things. You should know what they are, right? You should understand, like when you hire someone to do this, or you can do it yourself. If you hire one of these students. To understand how to actually operate this. So MySQL, Postgres, these are what are called RDBs, relational databases. These are old school. These are awesome. Okay? There's a saying that we have, old technology is good technology because it works. Okay? This is old technology, but it works really, really well. Okay? You guys could probably build entire companies, you probably already have, you don't know it maybe, are probably built on back-end MySQL server database. Probably. I'm thinking yes, MySQL, Postgres, maybe even SQLite, but whatever. We can do that. Does that make sense? Okay. Now the other things we have here are Hadoop. Okay. You've never heard of Hadoop? An elephant, right? An elephant. Anyway, so Hadoop has been around for about 15 years, 10 years, probably. Came out of Yahoo originally. Yahoo and then Google took some of it, they developed some of it. This is big data, okay? This is the term big data. This is where it sort of started at, right? This is a lot. Does anyone use Hadoop? Who uses MySQL? Come on, raise hands. Who knows how to query a MySQL database? Who knows how to really query a MySQL database? Like just crush that thing with like 200 lines of like MySQL, like and like you have like people looking at you like, what the hell is this doing? And you should, like, I can't, okay, so statistics and MySQL queries. As a business person, like, I want everyone to go home, okay, and start learning those things, okay? Basic general statistics, basic general MySQL queries, okay? I love it when a business person, quote unquote, comes to me, and they're like, oh, what's the database? I'm like, you're not touching it. I'll make a replica for you. I'll make a view for you that you won't kill. But if you want it, here it is. Like, okay, I can write the SQL query to figure out what I need to do. I'm like, all right. Point for you, right? You get a gold star. That's awesome, right? That helps me in my job. Okay. Then you can give me something and say, oh, these are KPIs I want. Here's my SQL query. I'm like, all right. That's awesome. I will put that in my ETL process, and I will process that daily. Right? Or write a report that will email to you in the morning, every morning at 7 a.m. So you don't have to ask me anytime else. My job in life really is to code, so I don't ever have to talk to you. Literally. Like somebody was like, oh, well, I want this question. I'm like, are you gonna ask this again? Yes. All right, I'm gonna code you something. You'll never have to ask me that question again. Right? I literally do this. Like, I have a process where someone asks a question, like, will you ask me this again? Will you ask me this after that? Yes, yes, okay, I'm coding it. You will never talk to me about this problem again. Okay? Like, seriously. And then I'll build a dashboard if that's, and then they can like move levers and stuff, right? And I'm like, don't talk to me. Okay? Okay, so Hadoop, big data. S3. Who uses S3? Raise your hand. Awesome. S3 is cheap. Glacier is cheaper. Right? Okay, we're going to talk about this in a little bit. All right? Well, actually, we're going to talk about it in like bullet points. All right, now. Okay, so S3 is important. Okay, because S3, all right, is where I dump all of my backups, and I back up a lot. Okay, I back up so much that it's ridiculous. Okay? Because I've been in instances, when I say backup, I mean the databases, right? My user data, right? My transactional data, right? All this data sits there, right? And if it goes away, it's sitting on one MySQL database, and somebody does drop cable, right? Or like one of these business guys, right? And they just like kill my database, I'm screwed. Like my company is like done. Like I've seen this happen. I'm not joking. I've seen 9 years of data go down the tubes because a developer did one thing wrong. And they were like, oh, that sucks. And then I'm like, I gotta back up. So this is where you back up that data to. I actually, okay, so I showed you 2 pictures of my kids. Those are 2 pictures of, I think, 80,000 that I have. I love taking pictures a lot. They sit on a very, very like large like drive at home. I back up that drive to S3. I use it personally. Like, seriously, I'm not joking. My wife's like, why is the computer slow again? The internet's not working. I'm like, it's because the drive is backing up all of our pictures of our children, all of our tax returns for the past like 10 years. Like, don't worry, it's good. S3 is my term, right? And then what I do is I take S3 and I push it to Glacier. Okay, it keeps frozen, and then it's replicated and pushed down. You don't know what Glacier is, but S3 is important. Okay, you should understand when your data is backed up. You should back it up all the time. Okay. Next is Spark. Spark is the hot thing right now. Okay, I use Spark. I code in Scala a lot. Spark is amazing. You don't need to have big data in order to use Spark. Right? But Spark is cool. You don't really need to use it. I use R. Who asking about the math, the statistics stuff? It's you, right? Fluidity? Yep. R. Everyone see this? Okay. R is a data scientist's best friend, and Python. Python and R, okay? Python's awesome. I love Python. Python is an actual fully developed programming language. If there's one language that you should all learn, it's at least Python. I think, okay? Because Python can build a website, can build a backend server, and it can run your analytics platform. One-stop shop. Awesome. Okay? R as a data scientist, I can tell you the statistics in probably 2 lines of code. Okay? And I can write scripts that will generate and process that in 2 lines of code. Okay? Very, very fast. Okay? R is awesome. R is built on this other language called S. Funny. C and C++. Right? Joke. But Python's awesome. So daily I use Spark a lot. Spark is becoming like Python in a lot of respects. And because, Spark, Scala over top of Spark, the actual language. It's a JVM language, you don't know what that means. But it's fast, it's compilable. Anyway, okay. So, if you don't know what any of these means, learn. Look, if you don't know what any of those things are, at least learn what they are. Right? If you don't know what they are, learn. That's what. So most people don't have big data, but they use tools for big data, with the idea that you'll eventually scale to big data. Like I said, it's not the size of your data, it's how you use it. Okay. Store your data, back it up. Like I said, because it's your product, right? Let's see. Make sure your data is safe. I don't let anyone touch my data. Okay, you have to prove yourself. I'm not joking. My new data scientists will come in and like, all right, where's the data? And I'm like, oh no, everything's hashed. You'll never see private information. You have to prove yourself. Okay, even if they're junior, we train them, bring them up, like, here's son. You don't have to call, right? Okay. But it's backed up, right? So they can't screw you, all right? All right, let's see, what else? Make sure your system, whatever your system is redundant, okay? It always has a backup process. That if one process fails, it always back up. Also for data, that's why we have 3 tracking systems, right? Google Analytics, Micro tracking, and something else. Security is key, right? So many companies get screwed over because their data is not secure. And sorry, when you get written up in the newspaper, your data got hacked, and now all these, you have to contact all of your people and tell them that their credit card information was in happens. Very huge. Very, very huge. Okay. And make sure it's redeployable, right? So I built all my systems on AWS, right? My Hadoop clusters running there, S3 is AWS, my Spark clusters running there. I have 3 Spark clusters. Who's reading that? I don't use Windows. I hate them. Sorry. I use Linux and I use iOS, Mac or Mac OS, because it's also Linux, by the way. Twice better. Sorry, PC users. All right. All right. So I'm going to give you a breakdown of how our internal system works in Humin. Okay. This is supposed to be complicated. This is supposed to sound complicated. All right, I'm going to give you this process. This is a mobile application. I'm going to give you a process in the from like a web-based platform. All right, to show you the difference and why one is much harder than the other. All right. Okay. So, who knows what a GPB means? Google Proto Buff. Anyone know what that means? That's complicated. It comes from Google, obviously. Okay. Google Proto Buff is a way of storing data. Okay, it's a very compact way of storing data. Does anyone know what a JSON object is? JSON, raise your hand please. JSON is awesome. It's readable, human readable. Means I can bring up a JSON and I'm like, I can read that. Right? Human readable, right? So it has like a variable name, right? Or a metric, and it has some values called kind of like a key value store. Right? Key is a value. Right? So you can query, you can look it up. Okay, the GPP is very similar to that. There's another thing called YAML. Again, similar. Okay. So GPP files are very, very compact. They're tight. I can query them. They have APIs. They're very, very cool things. If you use JSON to capture data for your mobile app or for your website or whatever, check out GPPs. They're really cool. Anyway, so we have a GPP file that's sent from our client phone, right? I'm doing stuff on my app, and every so often, the GPP file is written with all my data, okay, with all the metrics I just did, right? Like Ariel came to me and she was like, we want to track this, this, and this. I'm like, okay, so we're going, we code all that stuff, right? We put it in where the events happen. We understand the funnel. We understand like what the events are. We understand what we're going to call the metric, right? We put it all in. We compile it. Send it off to Apple. Apple approves it. Someone's using it. I'm using it now, right? So I do some things in the app. GPP file gets written up, okay? Then it gets sent to an S3 server, okay? Our S3. Awesome, everyone use it. So it gets written to this bucket, called bucket S3. And they're constantly being written. Okay? What we have is we have this Spark cluster, okay? A set of, I think there's 4 computers now running on that cluster. This cluster is sitting there and it's constantly watching this S3 bucket. And it's sucking in the data as it's getting written. Okay? And it's reading those GPP files. Okay, it's processing each one of those GPP files by its namespace. Remember the dimensionality here? So this is called a namespace. Okay, so it's processing all these things. Our namespace, last time I checked, was I think at 200 some odd metric unique dimension namespaces. So our dimensionality of our metric space was over 200. Okay, we probably only use like maybe 10% of that, but we have it, right? So it's really complicated. Don't even get me started, I didn't write that. So the GPP file is running, the Spark cluster is a huge system of like machine processing, and it's running back out to S3 in these FLAC files. And the bucket name is written as like the namespace. Then I have a bigger cluster of computers that's monitoring that and building up and taking all that data and processing it in Hive and Hadoop. Okay? And then it gets rolling up and aggregating these metrics, such as user counts for that day, funnel analysis, not in here, but sales, your conversion rate, you all these different things on a day level, on an hour level, a minute level, whatever, right? However, your CEO or whatever KPIs you identify, that's the level that you should actually give it back. You should take the level of KPI that you want and then go one level deeper. Right? So if my CEO says, I want weekly data for this, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll make it daily. Okay? So I can only back in or back out. Right? Or I can only aggregate it up. If the dimensionality allows it. Okay? Sometimes you roll up from one level of dimensionality, write your data. I'm not going to get into it. Like distinct user counts, right? It's something that you can't add on with days. You know why? Why if I have I have distinct user counts for the past 7 days? Can I add up those 7 days and get a distinct set? One, it's a set theory. Alright. Here, I'm just going to write this out. One. Okay. So I have A1, I have 5 distinct users. Okay? A2, I have 7 distinct users. In those 2 days, do I have 12 distinct users? Why? This is a set, right? This is a set, right? See what's good I just did there? Give you a big hint. Big overlap, right? There, this is overlap. I'm double counting, right? So in this instance, you can't, right? But you always try to take it at least one level deeper, okay? Or one level more granular, okay? Because you know if your CEO is going to come to you and be like, oh yeah, you remember when I said I wanted a daily or weekly? I actually want a daily or hourly. Okay? That always happens. So always account. Okay? Or you're the CEO, so you probably know. Okay, so my Hadoop cluster is processing all this data, right? And then it's being written out into S3 files, back to S3, CSV files. And then this data is getting pushed back from S3 and piped to a MySQL database, right? Nice little MySQL database, real lightweight, really fast. Okay? And then I have an R server running right over top of it. It's running what's called Shiny. Shiny's awesome. Shiny's very cool. I can build a deck or dashboard in under a day if you have all the data ready. I can build it like that. Okay? And I can open up a WebSocket to it. You can log into it. You can like check out all my cool graphs that I just made for you, and you never have to talk to me again. And I'm happy. Okay? So that's my analytics server. So half of this, actually, basically from here up, is all data engineering. Right? And then what I do, we take this stuff here, compare it to Google Analytics. Compare it to Google Analytics. We say, does it make sense? Does it match? Oh, it doesn't. Let's check out why. Okay? Alright. Very complicated system. Okay? This is actually, though, a very standard way of doing this. Very standard way. Okay? That's why you need a data engineer. Okay? But from this data, right, we're not collecting it up here. If we didn't identify those KPIs or those success metrics up here, we don't have it down here. I can't give a due diligence report to a VC. Right? I can't project out 6-month growth, 3-month growth, year growth, 2-year growth. Okay? It has to happen all the way. Okay. So it's really complicated. Now, the website of this is awesome, right? Because they just have page tracking, like a page tracking system, right? Where I see a referral, right? Remember the one that Peter was talking about, right? That comes back. I'm logging all of this data, right? Logging everything. Oh, I've seen a user, because I've cookied them. That's their user ID, right? This is the session ID, so I attach a new session ID to it. This is where they clicked. This is where they came from. This is their IP address. This is the email that I have on file, right? I process this every day. Okay? And I process all transactions. So that's all your session, your user, and your transaction. So, we're going to take this time now. We're going to open discussion. You can ask me questions. We can code. We can do math. We can arrange for you. Or we can talk about both modern learning. So, I want to hear from you guys. So, like I said, you don't need me, right? You don't need someone like me. Okay? You need a data engineer, which I can do that. Don't get me wrong. But you need at least 2 ways, if not 3, of collecting your data. Your metrics. Okay? You need to understand what metrics you want to collect now, what metrics you think you're going to want to collect down the road, okay? And what you think that the VCs are going to want to see. Okay? So, you guys have questions for me? What are your thoughts right now? Are you scared? You should be. Yes. What is it? Segment.io. I don't know Segment.io. Can you explain it? Is it like is it a marketing platform for like segmentation analysis? Oh, yes. They aggregate all this like different disparate data that they present it to you, right? Okay, so let me talk about things like that. So he just asked like, what do you think about Segment.io? Like they take in different data platforms, right? Right? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. That's cool. I am the type of person, because I'm a control freak. Okay. I also want my data to be mine. Okay. Or it's my users. I don't want to give it to anything. Okay. I want to make sure it's stored. I want to make sure it's properly processed. And I want the user level data because I want to meet those things. Okay. So as far as a simple, nice tool, probably cool. Never used it. As far as me being who I am, and understanding where things can go wrong and do go wrong, I want to be in control. So yeah, if local Linux, for example, gives you your data. Like you have to sign more of the paperwork or whatever, and you know, just for time. But they'll actually give you access to their S3 bucket. We use it, and I actually sync it myself over to the bucket I own. So I have it, and I pre-process it, and I patch it in there to see if they're actually telling me the truth. They just don't trust me. So the one thing that I joke about that is true is, as a data scientist, you know, as an analyst, whatever you want to call it, my job is to not tell you good news necessarily. My job is to tell you the truth. No matter how ugly that is, right? But if you know the truth, then you can make it actionable. You can change it. You can change the way you do business. You can change how you spend money. Okay. Okay. Good question. No, next question. Pardon? How do you monitor active and current? Can you explain that a little bit more? Oh, I see. So you want to understand sort of like how like you want to do load testing. Yeah. So load testing. Very good question. There are platforms you can also write things that do it, right? So, for example, if you have a website, right? You can build like a process or a system on another computer that will ping the hell out of that other computer, that server, right? So if you have a website, right? That website is being given requests, right? You want to see how fast how many requests it can take per second or concurrent, right? So you can have like a Python job or whatever, PhD. I don't know, do you have a parallel system? A parallel system multi-thread? No? Okay. Yeah. Node.js, yeah, no Node.js. Python. So you can build a system that will basically mimic like 1,000 people hitting your website at the same time, or very, very fast, like concurrently, right? Almost nothing ever happens simultaneously or concurrently unless it's actually multi-threaded. Sorry, for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about. Yeah, that's how you do a load test. That's how you would do it. You would say, oh, my server went down after I hit this number of concurrent users because I have something that's actually load tested. So we do that with the phone, actually. We do that with our phone books. We do load testing. Other questions? Come on. This is data. It's interesting. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on NoSQL databases?
What is what?
NoSQL databases.
NoSQL databases. Okay, good question. Who knows what a NoSQL database is? Okay. It doesn't mean that I hate SQL, right? It's like NoSQL. NoSQL means not only SQL, right? So you can put what people refer to as unstructured data. Okay. This is NoSQL databases were very hot, and they still are. Like, there's a lot of systems that are very useful. What I say is the right tool for the right job. I've used NoSQL databases. I still use them sometimes, right? I do graph theory. We build graphs. Okay, graph theory is very cool, very interesting, very cool math. It's actually what my master's thesis is on. And it actually fits very well into that paradigm. But it depends on the problem, right? NoSQL is good for certain things, Hadoop is good for other things, Spark's great for other things, right? GraphX is great for other things. It depends on what your needs are, right? The issue that I have with a lot of this world, right, is there's buzz terms that come out, and then people jump on board, right, with them. They're like, oh, Spark is the new thing, right? Like everyone wants Spark, everyone wants to do stuff. It's great, it's good, it's awesome if you have the correct use case for it. If not, it's taking a machine gun to kill a fly, right? It's just over. NoSQL though works for very unstructured data. I've used it for text analysis, for NLP kind of stuff, natural language processing. If your data schema is dynamic and changing, it's wonderful. It's great. It's essentially like putting something in a JSON object, right? It's that's essentially what it is. Right? It's flat text, and it's JSON, a bunch of JSON flat text files, which I can also process as a GPB and push it into a Spark server. Right? So that's Spark cluster that we were talking about that was processing that stuff. If it sees a new metric, right, it rewrites a new GPB file and tells us, oh, there's this new metric now, process it. So we can process it, right? So So we got around sort of that dynamic thing by just building a system that can handle it, right? But NoSQL databases are awesome for other things, right? Good question. I love databases. Okay. Questions? More questions? Come on. Yeah. Student. Yes.
Just say that you don't have to do it.
Okay, so.
Just say that
Oh, Jesus. Okay, so you want to build real-time chat application. Okay, there's no such thing as real-time. Right? Because there's latency everywhere, right? Speed of light is like latency, right? So there's no such thing as real-time. So then my question is, how fast do you move? Right? Do you want to like sub 250 milliseconds? Like, do you want it like it's again, it's a use case, right? I could buy on AWS like the most fastest Percona multi-threaded MySQL database that's going to cost me like $100,000 a week, and I can do key store value, whatever, and it's super lickety flat, lickety split fast. Okay, I can do that. But is it cost effective? Remember that business stuff I'm talking about? Yeah. This is number one thing, right? When you're a student, you're like, oh, I'm going to do this, but is it good business? Is it cost effective? And does it solve the problem? Right? So this is one really great anecdote. When I was first learning all this stuff, I built this really cool model predicting something. I can't even remember what it predicted. It had really high prediction, like 99% accurate, right? You can tell our CEO what propensity somebody had for rank chartreuse. I don't know, it's ridiculous, right? And I tweeted him and I was like, dude, check this out. This is super cool. And he's an engineer. And he was like, that is cool. So what? Who cares? Whatever. He's like, who cares? And he was like, look, he's like, at the end of the day, right? You can show me all the cool math, all the cool stuff. You can code really cool programs and stuff. But if it doesn't make me money, I don't care. Right? That's why we're here, right? We run businesses, right? And we want to make money. We want to get VCs to give us more money so we can make more money. We can make them money. They want money too, right? Why you have businesses? We all want to make money, right? So at the end of the day, all of this stuff, all the metrics, all the cool math, all the cool database stuff, right? It's all about what is actionable. It's not actionable, then screw it, look to something else. Okay? That's the number one takeaway that you can do, right? But you're not going to get that actionable information. You're not going to have that level of insight 6 months from now where you're like, oh man, I really wish I knew what IP addresses these people were coming from, because then I can geolocate them and tell me exactly where most of my users are coming from. We do that. Everyone does that. Everyone does that. Right? It's creepy. Yeah. I make a request for an IP address. I capture that IP address. I know their IP. Right? Then I figure out where that IP address comes from. Okay? And I know that most of my users come from Beverly Hills, and they're spending $2,000 every time they make a purchase on ridiculous shoes. Right? But I understand that. Okay? And the more data you collect, the more ways you have of collecting that data, the better off you're going to be 6 months from now, a year from now, when you see some problem. Okay? So, with that, I will wrap up. 7 minutes left over. I was really long day for you. I just talked on. So yeah, I have email. I'll be here tomorrow. Actually, also giving a workshop. I have a workshop at clinic. Yes, that's big. Where if you're sick, you come. If your dad is sick, you come. So we're running a clinic tomorrow. Calm talk. I love talking about this stuff. Obviously, very enthusiastic about this stuff. I like talking business too. I love business. I never thought I would ever say that. My father-in-law gives me crap for it all the time. I was doing my PhD in pure mathematics. Not change the world, just study this obscure part of math. And he was like, make money. I was like, no. And I was like, I like business, it's fun. Problem solving is different. I make money at the end of the day. Yeah. Sure, please. Go ahead. Yeah, cool, very cool. So this is actually a business without me. So you're yeah, okay, awesome. Same team on it. Yeah. Overlaps, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Tell you what, why don't we take this offline? Yeah, let's like this one-on-one. Yeah. Other questions, like more, like, kind of the way, practice goes on. A little like quick.